I will say, initially I was kind of expecting things to go that way, but it turns out most of the people in my community are just my friends, and
Jiggle, 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 jiggle. So I'm gonna finish off my interview with Forneia that we started during my Prideathon 24-hour stream. I wish I knew about the VODs, so I could have cut the VOD in two for that stream. But, anyways, we're going to finish off like a handful of questions, and then we're going to move on to talking about some VTuber related topics. Anyways, I believe we are good to get started. When ready. She's calling. Howdy.
hello.
Oh yeah, I gotta set up the PNG.
Oop, hang on. All right, take two. I got hit with a drive-by Windows update last night, and it disassociated my microphone from where it should be.
Oh goody, don't you love when that happens? It's like the
Oh boy.
best when it's the stream software right before
Mm-hmm.
stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually having that happen to me yesterday as well. It's like, oh, great. Why are my alerts not giving me sound? They're giving the audience sound, but they're not giving me sound. Why is this? Oh, I see.
It's
Time to
just
go
so
for a
frustrating.
pursuit for the setting.
Okay, where is it? That's group PNG. I don't have one for guest. What the hell?
One moment. One moment.
Browser? What's a stream without scuff?
A miserable pile of secrets.
True.
Should be this one. Should be my individual.
No, not 6001. 1080. There. We're not going to have to worry about the blockiness that we had with the Prideathon stream. That was a bit of
Last time I
lucky
came
on
as a
my
group. This time I come as an individual.
end. True.
Oh, I see I'm a browser source. Excellent. I've been promoted.
Wait, what? I mean, yeah, that's how I
There we
view
are.
PNGs. So, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody again?
Certainly. Hello, hello. I am Forneia. I am a variety slash retro VTuber, Mermaid of the Sea. And, well, we met last time when we were doing the, I suppose the shotgun interview approach, I suppose we could consider it, where you just kind of were throwing interviews all over the place, and I was just like, ooh, can I have one, please?
Yeah, because typically they go like, oh my god, hour and a half, 2 hours long, but I had to
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
limit them to 1 hour each.
Yeah, that was certainly ambitious when I thought about it. It's like, geez, this is quite the question list. You're going to try to fit all of this into 1 hour and then have tangents as well. Good luck, honey.
And I seem to manage it.
Most
Uh,
people didn't actually make it through the question list. We came close, but didn't quite make it. We were short, like, what, 3 questions?
yeah, I think it was like 3 questions that you and I didn't get through. I think only one or two people actually got all the way through the questions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I did watch all of them, and I did leave a comment on each of them. I wanted to make a point of that.
And every little bit helps engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump right back into it. Yay, they keeps disappearing on me. I guess we'll start off with because we had some questions that you did want to redo your answers to.
Mm-hmm. So when we originally were doing this, like prior to going, I had, reviewed the questions and had some thoughts about them. And then in the spur of the moment, because I was coming immediately out of a tabletop collaboration with the Astral Hammer, where I was, role playing, a rather excitable character, we'll say. Uh, my headspace was not my, default headspace. So when I came to like this question here or that question there, I was like, what was my answer? I'll just say the first thing that comes to mind. And in hindsight, it's like, okay, some of them, it's like, yeah, that's what I meant to say, and others, it was just kind of like, oh, this isn't exactly untrue, but I completely forgot about this other aspect, or I was going to say something different, and upon reflection, I'm not too thrilled with that. So, figure, if these things are supposed to be 2 hours long, well, then let's do it right.
Yeah, I mean, if we really wanted to do that, we could start over from question one.
Oh boy,
But I mean, we don't really need to retread
that's
that
fine if you do.
same we don't need to retread the same ground. But yeah, honestly, that's a bit of the curse of the live streamer made video format. Because, like, I swear to God, every single one of my videos, if I rewatch it, I'm like, oh, there's a better point I could have made right here.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Oh,
single time.
absolutely. I know exactly how that is. I'm just like, oh, I could have said something else here. Why didn't I say this? Why didn't this occur to me? This occurred to me 10 seconds afterwards, and the moment was past, so I couldn't say it. Grr.
Oops, don't drink that way. I took a sip and my hand covered your face. I'm sorry.
Well, I'd rather you cover my face while you take a sip rather than you spilling your drink into your keyboard again.
Of course you bring that up.
I'm going to bring that up because after we've wrapped up and I went on to the crazy bus thing with Toasty Leapchin, Toasty spilled their drink and their keyboard and crashed the crazy bus. So
Are
evidently,
you
everywhere I was
serious?
going, people were spilling their drinks and then blaming the mermaid because they were drinking water or something. So you know what? I have been the victim of propaganda, vicious, horrible libel, and I am not standing for it. I am setting the record straight today.
I was not going to declare you the reason I made the sippy spill, but oh my god. What are the goddamn odds? Poor Toasty.
I wasn't even there 5 minutes, and then like I immediately just got gaslit by Nerdy. I was just like, oh, you spilled the water. Clearly, it's a mermaid that just airdropped N's fault. I'm like, excuse me.
Did you mention that it also happened to me previously within like the first 10 minutes of
I'm,
our
I'm, I'm,
conversation?
I'm almost certain I did. And it wasn't quite within 10 minutes. It was more like
Was it?
30, 40 minutes, I want to say. It was like, it wasn't super close to the beginning. Like,
I
I've
felt like
watched the
it
interview several
was,
times.
but I mean,
At the very least, it didn't feel that way, I suppose.
it's out there on the VODs. We can definitely go back and check if we
Definitely
want to
go check it
confirm,
out.
but like,
Definitely go check it out by all means, and not just for
yes.
that spicy moment. It doesn't help that oh, I know why it feels early because you made that the highlight of the interview instead of anything I had to say.
Oh, god damn it. You're right, I did. But I do like to use a hook moment to really get people's interest in there. It's hard to
Oh
really
no,
find a lot of stuff. Some things
no,
I
I
oh my god, some videos are so hard to find the clip for.
no, I totally understand. That's partially why I'm giving you a hard time about it. Not that I disapprove, but because you've already kind of given yourself a hard time about it. So I figure it's okay.
Don't worry, I'll make sure the clip for this video is definitely something that you say.
It's going to be me lighting you up right now.
I mean, I'm thinking of it. So, getting back to those questions,
Hmm.
if you could collaborate with any creator, who would it be?
All right. So this was a question that, as I watched the interviews and saw how other people were answering it, you know, I had just kind of thought of my mentor, Sarah Lene, and do I want to collaborate with her basically more than anyone? Yeah, I would definitely stand by that. But in terms of it being more of a fantastical question, like what's the pie in the sky, answer, which I think is might be a little more of the intent of the question. In that realm, it's either going to be Takanashi Kiara or Nina Kosaka, who is going to be probably under a new alias because newsreels have occurred since we last had that interview. News cycles, rather. But both of them are very, chatty, outgoing tangent queen types, which, I I might find some commonality in that, and I think that we'd get along pretty well. But also further because Kiara in particular is basically the moment that I really, became on board with, okay, I am officially cool with VTubers in general. I think I may have spoken about this previously, but my initial impressions on the VTuber scene were not super fantastic because it was mostly just Kizuna and I swearing in English profusely, and I was not impressed by that.
What? That's what got me into VTubers. It totally wasn't Shy Lily being funny and lewd at the same time, and then entertaining. God, I would love to talk with her. But yeah,
You
no,
know,
I get how you can have that kind of impression of VTubers at large from checking out a Kazuna AI stream.
I didn't even look at the stream. I just saw a clip and I'm like, oh, is this what VTubing is? I'm not impressed. This seems tremendously, immature and childish and, low hanging fruit.
And then you look at
Afterwards,
VTubers, it's a lot of childish, low hanging fruit.
in a different respect, but at least it's not just, oh, we have profanity and little else.
Yeah, that's true. There is actually a big variety to VTubers at large. Also, who is
Hmm.
this lovely newcomer? This is Forneia. She has been on stream previously.
Hello, hello. Pleased to meet you.
She a mermaid.
So, that I am. Afterwards, I saw a clip of Corone, which was like, okay, this is kind of cute, but she has a dog aesthetic, and I actually have a dog trauma. Since then, I've kind of come to go like, okay, she's got dog aesthetic, but Corone is cool. I'm cool with Corone, but at the time, I was just not entirely there because I've been attacked by dogs many, many times and without provocation, and that kind of trauma is a little hard to shake.
Yeah, that's kind of
Uh,
gonna stick with you for a day or two.
I don't know, a few weeks.
Not very
And
long, right?
afterwards,
Right?
the next VTuber thing that I saw that I actually had an impression on was Kiryu Coco doing a collab with one of the Hollow JP folks. I do not remember who it was at this point, but it was pitched to me as a native English speaker and a native Japanese speaker are going to play no talking or keep talking and no one explodes together, and I thought that sounded brilliant.
Oh my
So
god, that does sound amazing. I am sure there are going to be at least one or two people in my audience, at least in the comments, that'll actually point out which stream that was. Please do. I want to watch that stream offline. I really liked Kiryu
it,
Coco.
it, it was definitely very solid, and that kind of is where my opinion started. Just like, okay, I guess maybe the next time I see something that seems particularly eye-catching, I'll check it out. And the next one that I checked out was Kiara when she put her audience on blast about learning another language.
Like trying to encourage them to learn a second language?
Oh dear. I have that there's the clip you should be watching. Basically, she opens it up by just kind of like rapping through her normal business. And then she cues music and is like, "But a lot of us are learning all kinds of languages to speak with all of you. And you all think you can cruise through life speaking English, and you think that's enough? It probably is. But and just she had this prepared, just putting her whole audience on blast, telling them to go out and actually go learn a language. Stop just saying, "Oh, I want to learn Japanese." Go do it. Go do it, all of you. And that made me respect her immediately because, you know, I had a very strong association of VTubers are idols, and idols have a very specific culture in Japan. So I was kind of leery about that angle, but I saw in that moment, idols don't do this. Like, this is not a thing idols get to do. They don't get to put their audience on blast. And that's where kind of my reservations were shattered. And in later, months, I came to learn that Kiara is someone who has gone through a lot of struggle and, trying to do things, achieve things, and not getting anywhere or achieving anything, or, not having her efforts be recognized and all of that. And then, she finally found success, and I find commonality with that. So that's why Kiara is my actual favorite VTuber.
Okay, I get that. I get that. I also I haven't actually watched a lot of Kiara's streams, but I do have her on my Spotify, and I really like her songs that pop up.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, you had mentioned the idol culture part of VTubers, and honestly, that is a big kind of issue, I would say, because like people expect VTubers to act towards this idol culture because it's perpetuated a lot by the corpo VTubers like the Hololive and Nijisanji primarily.
Hmm. Right.
But
And like it's
oh
understandable because it does start as, kind of, all right, let's have virtual idols. It's, kind of how, VTubers like I'm amazed
yeah,
that VTubers didn't get called V idols at first by being virtual idols, since that was, kind of the initial goal. But then, the very realistic reality of, yeah, it turns out that having the idol act up all the time on streaming isn't really a thing anyone can do. And turns out when you let the idols just kind of let loose and, be themselves a bit more, it works out a little better, it turns out. So,
yeah, people
it,
actually end up getting a bit more attached to them because they feel like they know their Oshi a bit better. Also, Marina,
it feels
it seems
it
like
feels
you
more
don't know,
natural.
but Coco is continuing on. She is one of the V Shoujo girls. Just saying.
That's a trade secret.
It is. But she's actually fairly open about it, I think. Like honestly,
Oh,
most
I
VTubers don't
know, I
talk
know.
about their previous lives, but some do.
Yeah, the PL is definitely something to respect where it wants to be respected. She's also the type that absolutely does not,
Yeah,
at least for herself.
yeah, like she's pretty open. I actually really like her. I would love to talk with her.
Hmm. Definitely someone that is um, worth learning from, if nothing else.
Oh yeah, she definitely has tons of experience within the you know, creator space.
Pretty much.
She she's
But
got a
yeah,
following and she's earned it.
absolutely. And I'd mentioned Nina Kosaka, and my inclination to want to collaborate with her is, not quite to the same level as Kiara's is, but she has kind of a similar, personal history of long form struggle and, non recognition for her efforts until, she finally did. And so that's kind of something that I find commonality with because, in my own life, I have attempted many things not really gotten anywhere with any of it. And so now it's time for the new thing, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, you just got to keep trying, see what sticks. I mean, I've I've been in content for I'm gonna say 2 years now, roughly. Most of it was actually just focusing on the streaming, and then part of it became focusing on those different creator interviews. My I Spy with My Little Eye, that wordy, terrible name that I kind of like because it's kind of unique. But
Mhm.
that didn't really generate much growth for me. What it does generate that growth is stuff that my commentary stuff that sticks around all the time. That's what gets people to click on my stuff. I've I'm gonna be real. I have a very generic style design. Like there are so many succubi out there, but
Mhm.
I'm still seeing growth despite using a fairly unoriginal design because I'm putting out pretty original content of that being my personal opinion on stuff in the VTuber community. It's
Right.
it's just something that it's kind of like an underserved niche somewhat because like
Mhm.
there are some commentators, there are a handful. Most of them tend to actually do offline edited videos. I want to see more people doing like live comment reaction stuff, like what I do. It's the kind
Right.
of
Like
content I want.
it feels kind of adjacent to false IDs news stuff.
Yeah, yeah. He definitely does some stuff online or like live streaming, but then there's also edited
But
offline
yeah,
segments.
there's editing out for watching later on, which it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Honestly, I love false IDs stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm particularly fond of the complete and total non-farcical feud he has going on with himself and Iron Mouse. I laugh at that every single time.
Yeah, he's a pretty good one.
Hmm. Funnily enough, I didn't actually start watching things VTubers say particularly consistently until after the it didn't reach litigation, but the threat of litigation from Niji Sanji about False's the thumbnails on YouTube for uh for the news episodes.
Oh yeah, I'd heard about that. False and Kyo both had copyright strikes on their channels because they'd
Right.
used Niji Sanji official art in their thumbnails. But
Hmm.
weren't the thumbnails like actual screens of like the streams they used or the live models rather than like specific art? It's like the representation of the person, the
Hmm.
persona.
Right. Like it likely boils down to that Niji Sanji didn't like, its talent assets visually being represented next to, unflattering, statements because, they put in the basically like the headliner statement next to the image in the thumbnail. So they probably just didn't like that part. So,
It did
they
sound
went they,
like
went- they went they went and adjusted that, and now they use their own crew for it, and the charges silently got dropped. And realistically, those charges, from what I understand from legal folks, are not charges that would have held. I mostly just and that's but that's all kind of tangential. What I found was I was like, oh, Falls should absolutely not stand for this legally. And then when he declared, I will fight this, I kind of was like, you, all right, I'm in your corner.
oh yeah, because like they didn't copyright strike any of the videos that were speaking positively of Niji Sanji. It was only the ones that were critiquing their behavior. So it's like that's pretty petty of you guys to actually risk creators' livelihoods for calling you out on bad behavior you actually do.
Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to, the actual specifics of which videos got flagged and which ones didn't, but it was. pretty clear that it was just a don't use our intellectual property in this manner, you know, strong arm attempt.
Yeah, I had actually covered a video from Kiyomaru, that it was giving his side of the story of where he was going. Like, both False and Kyo were getting those copyright strikes over the exact same reasons, essentially, because
Hmm.
they talked about Niji Sanji a few times, like multiple times, some positively, some neutral, some negative, because of whatever the subject of said video. And it was only the ones with negative critique of them that were getting these flags.
Mm.
So it was like pretty sus on Niji Sanji. But like, they just,
All I'll say further on the subject is I did notice that in the wake of that, False didn't seem to hold back on as much unflattering news regarding Niji Sanji.
like, he actually went a little harder on Niji Sanji after that came out.
There's a few newsreels that you should check out.
Can't use our official art critiquing them. Can't use fan art critiquing them. Feels bad, man. Yeah, yeah, relatable.
Anyhow,
Anyhow, what's the most amazing natural occurrence you've witnessed?
so at the time, I basically didn't really have a proper answer to this one. I actually thought of one in the wake of everything. And so the last year, I actually was invited to live with a friend of mine who lives in Florida for the summer. And, he was actually, teaching me how to cook. And I can cook now.
Oh, nice.
And I learned Uh, because I'm over here over on the Pacific side of things. Those kinds of super dense foliage, uh, jungle forest arrangements that occur in the swamp, those don't happen over here. When over here and you look across the landscape, you either see the horizon or you see a mountain range in the distance and perhaps structures. Over there, you just have walls of trees that are like 20 feet high. You know how in like Ocarina of Time, you go into the Lost Woods and you just have like the tree textures that are just flat walls? It was like that as a personal experience.
Yeah, I've seen forests like that. It's kind of actually bizarre that they survive like that, but
I,
they
I,
do.
I, I took one look at that and I found it absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, because what lives in there?
Not even what lives in there. The plants themselves. I find plants to be very unnerving. I'll be entirely honest. And this is not just because I'm a water type. Um,
I get it.
I hope so.
Completely tangentially, or like completely unrelated. What Pokemon type would I even be?
Dark fairy.
That's actually pretty obvious. Yeah.
Uh, so the part that I found particularly unnerving about these tree walls were, you know, the very idea of being like, say, on a road, you know, a transportation medium, and looking to the sides and seeing walls, functionally walls, while outdoors. That was very unnerving to me.
Yeah, like you're
I'm
supposed to
not
be out.
the claustrophobic type. I actually hate being outdoors. I very much appreciate having, walls and a roof and all that other good stuff.
But then the
But being
walls are the
outside,
outdoors, and it's like your claustrophobia and agoraphobia play into each other, and it's like, holy shit, this feeling exists.
Like, it makes me think of, the way that a lot of like eldritch horror writers will, angle towards, the idea of reality is behaving in a way that it shouldn't. Whenever, the eldritch thing is influencing upon the world or whatever, it's like this is not how this is supposed to happen. That was kind of the feeling that I had. So, I would say that was the what was the exact termage of the question? The most amazing natural occurrence was how amazingly horrifying that kind of tree line is.
It's like a cornfield, but like trees.
Oh geez, I'm a Dead by Daylight player. Don't talk to me about cornfields.
There's a lot of corn there.
Too much. I can't see.
Hypothetically,
I live deep underneath the water. I don't see red. This doesn't work for me. This causes problems.
fair enough, fair enough. Hypothetically, the zombie apocalypse is happening. Who are your three choices of people on your team?
So this one I just kind of want to make one slight adjustment for. I mentioned a friend that I had described, but did not really mention by name last time. The chemist one, if you remember that, or if you're going to go and watch the initial interview, by all means. Uh, After I sat and thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't going to say that. I just kind of said it because we segued into it from the prior question, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds logical. But no, realistically, the answer for who I would put in that particular slot would be my half niece because I care about her and I have a feeling that she would need someone that she trusts to make it through something like that.
That is very noble. Because it would not be easy to take care of a child during a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, she's in her teens at this point. She's in high school, but still,
Okay, so at least she would be able to somewhat defend herself when push came to shove.
it's far more the psychological and emotional state of things because like that's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be a lot.
yeah. Like when people say like niece or nephew, I think the age range of around like 8, 9, just
Oh yeah,
inherently,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
is
No,
like,
I totally understand, but no. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
no,
it's definitely a thing where just, you know, I would definitely want her to be okay, so I would keep her close in that sense.
I totally get that. I've actually got a zombie plan with my oldest IRL friend.
Mm.
We're going to meet at a mall in between our two places, and then make
Please
sure we
tell
take care
me
of
you're
each
not
other.
just going to go into a bar and wait for things to blow over.
Don't call me out like that. No, we'd meet at a mall and stock up on supplies, and then just try and find an actual place to hole up, kind of thing. Though a mall would actually be a bad idea.
Yeah, but there's kind of a lot of congregation there,
Just
so
a little.
odds are basically be in the Ellie situation. Difference. I'm not a horrible person like Joel. Or at the very least, I'd certainly like to think I'm not. Because I actually do care about her and her well being.
I don't know The Last of Us at all. Just saying. I don't have a horse in that race.
I will refrain from spoiling.
Okie dokie. I'm probably not going to play it, but there might be people in the audience that might want to play it eventually. I don't
Absolutely.
know. If you were a wrestler, what would your intro music be?
The the answer I have for this one is going to be like a little bit to explain, and it kind of brushes up against spoilers. So I'm going to kind of speak around it a little bit, but if I were to be a wrestler, despite the fact of, everything being about me being the way I am, of, being a very preachfully positive person, I suppose we could say, like I want folks to be happy and I want, to do right by as many people as I can. I want things to be better. I want to help things be better and all that other kind of thing.
I
I would
mean,
absolutely in wrestling, I would absolutely be a heel because if you give me the opportunity to be a dirtbag, I am taking it.
okay, that was a completely different direction than I thought you were going to take that. Because, like, I was going to interject with you saying, like, you want to spread positivity and happiness. I'm like, I was going to say, like, you can still believe those things and then hit somebody with a fucking chair. But then you want to play a heel? Okay.
Look, I am the
It
one who
does
goes
seem
out and
fun.
argues with. I am totally going to be the one who goes out and argues with the ref while the person that I want to win is losing so that the ref isn't counting. I'm the one who's going to like slip a chair to someone else or something.
Yeah, the person that's distracting the ref while the other person is bending the
Mm-hmm.
rules. That kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I I do not identify with this with the common prevalence these days of goblin or gremlin. I more prefer to think of myself as a part-time rogue. When I want to be a rogue, I will be a rogue. Usually I don't, but occasionally the situation calls for it and I embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes fun to be a little shit disturber. It
So
just
that being said, the track
depends on the
itself,
context and when, how you're doing it, kind of thing.
mhm. The track itself, I'm not going to state the name of because it's actually a spoiler. I'm just going to say it is the penultimate final boss music from Blaster Master Zero 3.
I have never heard of that.
You should play the Blaster Master Zero games. They are very, very strong, and the third one I think might actually have convinced me that it's like one of my favorites. Like I can't not think about it.
Master 03.
It's available on Steam. If you are a console possessor, there is in fact the Blaster Master Zero trilogy, which has all three games and even has voiceover in
No,
Japanese.
PC mustard race. Consoles need catch up.
I have to say I've never liked that particular termage, considering where the term master race comes from.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of inherent response I gotta work on personally. It's mostly the mustard joke to me. Mustard ketchup, ha ha ha, but I
Hmm.
recognize that it is problematic.
Yeah, like this is not a personal experience, but I did actually read an account of some kid in school who, throughout, the PC Master Race line when they were, doing like a pen pal thing. Turned out their pen pal was Jewish and not a game player, and none of the faculty were game players. So no one knew what they were talking about and thought they were sending a very, very different message.
That's kind of funny. Like in a
A
bad
little
way.
it's a little funny in that, oh, this is absolutely horrible. But at the same time, that's the kind of thing that a statement like that carelessly causes, action and ignorance of. So that's kind of why I'm a little critical of that one.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I don't drop that joke like often, but it's like it's one of those ones that just keeps bumping around in my head. I gotta replace it with something funnier.
Yeah, Yazzie's even gone on record to say that he actively regrets putting that phrase out into the lexicon and wishes that he could take it back.
Wait, zero punctuation guy?
Yeah.
He was the guy that coined it?
Yeah, it was in the what do you call it? The Witcher review.
Oh my god, I have seen that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where he belted out the term. And obviously he didn't think much of it at the time, but guess what? People latched onto it, and in the
Yeah,
following years, he has actually put into writing that he regrets that that sequence of termage, and particularly the way it gets used. He
yeah.
regrets it.
It kind of gets co-opted by some of the worst people. Like
Hmm.
some of the worst people actually ruin edgy humor because they don't understand the irony of the joke or where it's actually punching. They just think, haha, I relate and agree.
Right. And of course, then there's also, those who don't know any better and, just think, oh, this sounds funny, say it, and then realize, oh, this term has weight that I didn't realize.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the weight behind terms and stuff.
Hmm.
Moving on, what's the best piece of advice you've ever heard?
Um, yeah. Was that the one? Hang on.
I'm hanging. I don't need to clarify that because we're
We
on
this
YouTube.
I
If we
think
were
this
on
was one
Twitch,
of
I
the
would.
I think this is one of the this is one of the questions we didn't actually get to. And that's why I'm like, wait, I know exactly what I would say for this. I think I didn't get a chance to say it, which is why it's here.
Law is a crapshoot? I don't know what that is. I know Murphy's Law.
Oh, I'm very familiar with that one. Um, so the best piece of advice I've ever heard, and this is one I've actually extended to my half niece, is something that was told to me by a professor that I did not have for very long because I actually failed out of their class. But it was the statement of, if you are early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you probably shouldn't show up at all.
Interesting. Interesting. I like the iteration said by Captain America. You're either late or you're early. Pick one.
That is a good one. There again, it's a Captain America line. Hard to go wrong.
True. And it was by Sam Wilson.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't try to get there on the dot. I try to get there a few minutes before. Though I'm typically hanging out in the area like a half hour early.
Yeah, I am definitely someone who is permanently bad with time. Like I will say, like, oh, I'll have the give me about 10 minutes, 25 minutes. I'm just wrapping up with whatever it was. So I find that advice to be particularly useful because then, if I'm going way over, which I have a tendency to do because my capacity for gauging time is horrible, then it does not actually cause problems in that event.
Yeah, I try to highball my times too. Like if I think it's going to take me a half hour to complete a job, I'm going to say give me an hour. Just to give myself that little bit extra breathing room.
Seems we have a definition over there
What? Oh,
in
Poe's
your
law
chat.
talks about the irony needing to be stated. Otherwise, it will be taken literally. The zero punctuation thing probably represents that so well. Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense now.
Hmm.
Like, there's so many people that don't have the literary knowledge to realize when things are being ironic.
Either by being ignorant or being young, which is just another form of ignorance.
Yeah. At least I don't
One of them is more
directly.
forgivable.
I'm more forgiving towards being young because you get the excuse of you've hardly been on this planet.
You're
There's
the
a
new.
lot of stuff you can not learned yet. There's a lot of stuff I haven't learned yet,
You got to take it easy on the new guy.
but only for like a week. Then you can go after them hard.
What? You repeat offended? All right. My grace has been expended.
That's got to be your quote or your catchphrase when you're like going out to wrestle.
There you go. There you go.
It'll be perfect. So, what things in your life are you grateful for?
That's a fairly easy answer, I would say. Uh, if there's one thing I'm good at, that I've found, it is the fact that I am good at making friends. So I am very appreciative for the friends that I have, the friends that I still have, and the friends that, I don't have anymore because we've drifted apart, but, things didn't exactly go poorly. You know, the whole Auld Lang Syne thing.
Mhm. Like,
But I'm appreciative for everyone that I've ever met that has, taken their time to speak with me, you know, help me out with something, allow me to help them with something, and just kind of, improve things in general. Like I see folks, talking about like, oh, I want to go out and live in a mountain and just be a hermit because I hate people. And I'm just kind of going, all right, I understand that there's frustrations to be had with, all kinds of societal, national, personal, or, you know, any kind of level of whatever in, you know, the social sphere, in whatever form it takes. But I would not absolutely ever be able to survive being, completely on my own and isolated. No way. Like, no.
yeah, I would go
I
mad.
may
I
not
am
be
a
good
social
at being
creature. I need to talk to people.
I may not be good at being social, but I am definitely very social.
Oh, it's a skill. Hardly anybody starts out perfect at it.
Oh, sure. I'm just continually bad at it.
Well, you're not too bad in this conversation, just saying.
You're too kind.
Maybe. I am very naive. Fish necklace looks pretty cool. Is there lore behind it? Or is it just there for aesthetic purposes?
So, the feature on my necklace, that is a plesiosaur, not exactly a fish. And my
Jellyfish.
variety of mermaid is mammalian, as opposed to, you know, fishy, we'll say, because there's not really a firm termage. I can say ichthyological, but that's going to be pretentious and not entirely accurate.
Scaly.
I Point is I am not, descended or related to fish. I am I am my people are descended from the plesiosaur. So think of things like Nessie from the Loch Ness, or for a more contemporary fictional example, Lapras in Pokemon.
Oh
Those kinds of
yeah,
things.
Lapras.
So you can't really see them in this particular PNG, but I actually have like side flippers, and I can use them to balance upon land. They're also used to help me steer through the water and all that other kind of good stuff. And the reason I have those is because my people are descended from plesiosaur.
Ah, I don't know where you did drop that full reference sheet. Because I have seen your full design. I just don't
Uh,
remember where. I was trying to pull it up.
well, I can provide it to you very easily. One moment. There you are, complete with watermark.
Artist watermark?
Yep.
Perfect. There it is. Is this going to show? Or is it going to show on my other screen? It's showing the other one. Nice.
But
Boop.
yeah, that ancestry is also partially responsible for being generally larger than the most common, the more common mermaid perceptions. And I'm not expressly speaking upper body here either.
Yeah, like I
Oh,
don't
oh,
know.
oh, hey, nice YouTube window.
Thank you.
There we are. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, the sizing got all weird.
There we
But this
are.
is her full design. All the different colors too. Nice. I wonder
And
what kind
my
of background you would use for like a green screen, because obviously you wouldn't want to use green for your mask. Hmm,
or blue for my complexion.
maybe
It's
yellow.
probably yellow, honestly.
But I love that color. I'm kind of biased towards like the color of your tail.
Hmm.
I wonder why.
Hmm.
But yeah, that kind of is all the questions that we were wanting to go through.
I will say, since we're on the subject of my presentation here, the necklace is not the only piece of jewelry that I have. You can see in the other image that I have some rings as well. Those I'm going to be a bit more tight-lipped about because previously, you asked me, the history behind my chosen name, and I said that that's, a little bit of a secret and, for folks to figure out. And I'm just going to call attention to the jewelry as
Lobster rings.
specifically the rings as being clues for more or less the same mystery in a manner of
God
speaking.
damn. Wait, dragon design. I
Uh,
actually didn't realize that one before.
yep, you can see a close up of
Ah,
it to the upper right of the image there.
yes, I did pull that one up, but you don't
There we
have
are.
one
Yeah.
for the left hand ring. I gotta zoom
Uh,
in on that some more.
yeah, it's a bit easier to comprehend that one, so we didn't put the emphasis on that one.
No Karina, right?
Hmm?
I kid,
Uh,
I kid.
no, that's not what it is.
I'm pretty sure it's a Nemo.
I enjoy the Dream Master as much as anyone else, but that is not an influence.
Is there anything else you'd like to really talk about or bring up?
Well, there's plenty that I am good to talk about. We kind of went over a few subjects beforehand. As far as off the cuff, tangential things, uh, I sure picked a year to start being a VTuber, didn't I?
Yeah, you and me both. I should have started like a year earlier. I'd have been a lot further along by now.
Right? That's definitely a mood I've been having. I suppose another thing is regarding my model, because we did kind of touch on this a little bit last time. I do in fact have an updated prototype of my animated model right now,
Oh, really?
and yes, I still need to do a lot with it. I actually freshly have an iPhone 13, specifically so that I can use the thing effectively. I tried doing it with my horrible, outdated Android, and it was not up to the task. So I was like, okay, well, if I need to get new hardware for this, I'm going to get hardware that actually works and can do things. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually kind of excited about having a phone.
Well, I mean, if it produces the results you need, I gotta update the blend shapes of my model. It's getting kind of annoying, but I just haven't committed the time to actually properly getting that set up.
Hmm. part of me is kind of regretting going for the 2D angle because my initial plan with the 2D was this is going to be a holdover while I learn Blender and I will make my own 3D. But as soon as I properly started VTubing and I stopped being in prep phase, I have not had the time or energy to learn Blender at all. So I wish I had just kind of gone for 3D in the first place.
Honestly, I definitely recommend that people start with like a PNG or a simple 3D model. Get used to it before you start commissioning like a live 2D model. Those get so expensive, and you don't need to drop that money on something that you're just starting off. You don't
And then I
don't
also
always
find
know
them to
if you want
be,
to continue on with it either. Some people want to change their designs after a while. That can lead to
yeah,
thousands of dollars that they're dropping.
it's kind of been like, I'm kind of having, buyer's remorse about the matter in the terms of, well, is it going to be nice? Yeah, probably
Oh,
I'm going to say it's going to
absolutely.
be nice. But I could have had plenty of nice and less time that's going to be more mutable and easily modified and etc. without having to go through a tremendous process if I had just gone straight to 3D and just been willing to commission that in the first place. So,
Yeah.
whoops. Oh well.
Unfortunately, live 2D does look quite amazing, but it's hard to
If
actually update it
if you
like
do it right,
frequently.
if you don't do it right, I don't think it looks that good, honestly.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the execution.
And even then, I'd still think that, 3D looks better, like shout out to the last seahorse who is entirely the reason that we've even know of each other here.
True.
Anytime I see their model in action with them, having the 3D and the hand tracking, face tracking, and everything else that they do with VNyan, like they have a script for their tail to just have very natural tail movements where it just kind of will select things. Like I've seen, the scripting tree for the tail, and it is absolutely huge, and there's no way you could do anything like that with, a 2D. And their model
I
is
have
it's
seen
just so
hand tracking for 2D, but it's like so clunky.
you
My
have to
hand
account for
tracking
so
is
many
weird
things.
enough, but it's like a third party app that uses a camera as what's hand tracking.
Hmm. Yeah, so but yeah, to get to my point, the seahorse's model always looks impressive, and
Yeah,
from a production standpoint, I genuinely struggle to think of anyone who has a better looking, in motion model than Seahorse.
yeah, hers looks really, really good.
So yeah, I kind of wish I knew about Seahorse, a year back, because then it'd just be like, oh wait, hang on.
Right? Oh my god. I wish I had really put more thought into like my design a bit more for like what am I going to style my VTuber after? Oh, I picked something so fucking original, didn't I?
Well, I will say that Mermaid was one of several conceptual ideas. The other conceptual ideas were Cat Lady and the other were Cow Lady. So
Cat lady is pretty common. Cow lady,
it
not so
is.
much. But I have
Not
seen
so
some.
much.
Ah,
I suppose I'll also just say hello Milky Ways and just kind of leave it at that. Um,
giggity.
I imply nothing.
I imply everything.
Do
But
that with
yeah,
your own words, not mine.
I fine. But
I will remind you, I am say so.
that is true. You are say so. I am the non say so one. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking, do I want to? eventually redesign, re-debut kind of thing. I don't know what I'd go with. I mean, VTubers can be anything, but most of us just end up picking anime characters.
It's I didn't really think about it at the time, but my posture here of being, in a more reclined state, uh,
See anyone do
turns
purely
out, turn
mechanical robotic? I've seen a couple robotic ones. I've seen
I've seen
some
that.
mecha girls.
I've seen that here and there. Yeah.
I think
Turns
it's
out a lot
Lady
of
Ionia.
VTubers. Yeah, turns out a lot of VTubers are present themselves as upright as opposed to reclined. So that's a distinction I have going for myself, apparently.
Apparently. Ionia? Yes. I know we're here to talk about Forneia, but like, here is one Robo VTuber. Just saying, they do exist. There's just not many of them. Like 15-foot tall robot, inspired by Transformers, I believe. But yeah, VTubers can really be anything that they want to be, but most of us are just different kinds of anime girls. That's where we end up.
Transformers is not part of my formative structure, but I will say the notion of having a sign off or whatever of VTubers transform and roll out does sound funny to me.
That does seem pretty great.
I,
I
I would
watched a
give that a
lot
10
of
of
Beast
10.
Wars, but not much
Mm.
of the other stuff for Transformers.
I have seen exactly one Transformers thing ever in my life, and I deliberately made a point of it being the worst thing possible. It was that Transformers like anime adaptation thing.
What? I thought you were going to say like the Michael Bay movies, which everybody says.
Oh no, 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 no. If I, I am a nerd. Two, I am actually a critical thinker. So no, I'm not going to go with the low-hanging fruit on that one. Say what one will about the Bay Formers. I've not seen them. I can't comment on them.
Fair enough.
I can say that this anime Transformers though, they don't have much of a budget for it, do they? Oh boy.
I don't know. I think I watched a bit of the latest one, like Earthspark or whatever it is, but like not a lot of it. It
I
was
couldn't
neat.
even tell you what the name of it was. I'd have to look that up, and I don't feel that it justifies itself sufficiently for me to expend that effort.
Totally fair. But yeah, if I were
I just
to
remember a big
re-debut, what would I
spiral.
want to go with? It's a hard question. In a
Hmm.
community full of main characters, how do you stand out?
I've noticed that there seems to be kind of a bit of a not a I don't want to say tribalism because that's not correct. Oh, how do I phrase this? Like, there's been kind of like subgroups of like common themes, like like I fall into the category of C tubers, for example. So, uh, it's like, and then there's B tubers who are the VTubers who are like B or B adjacent, and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, like
So,
honeybees and stuff.
right. So it could be just all right. Which of these subcategories sounds appealing, and then just kind of be like, all right, I am joining this sub community. Could be an avenue of consideration.
Yeah, that's. I didn't really see the different subsets of the VTuber community when I picked my design. I was just like, well, what are the main things that really, or what are the big things about my personality, I guess?
Right, you're just
I'm
looking
very
to
friendly, I'm
represent.
very sexually positive, I've slept with most of my friends. I guess
Right.
succubus fits. Let's try being
Right.
a VTuber. Oh,
And
there's
you know,
so many succubi. Ah,
particularly the indie scene. And, you know, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that or anything. You know, it doesn't make you any less unique, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong for being in the commonality or anything like that. Like,
yeah,
for
but everybody
example,
does want to express their individuality, and it's hard to feel like an individual when you're looking just like 15 other people.
well, if I may break out an anecdote real quick.
Please do.
So, prior to being a VTuber, I was playing FF14 pretty hardcore, you know, wasn't doing a whole lot else. I will be
I can
entirely
relate.
honest for several years. And, you know, I play Mikote, and Mikote are the single most played. I don't like the term race, but they don't really offer you anything better in that one.
Yeah, no,
So
they just use races.
I'm going to say ancestry just to kind of put a forced point on the matter. At the very least,
Genealogy. I don't know.
D&D is actually shifting to using ancestry, and Pathfinder 2 is already using it. So I'm going to go with ancestry.
Okay.
And you know, Mikote are, you know, the most played and popular of the ancestries in 14, which, you know, surprise, surprise. But what made me distinct is that I would play a Keeper of the Moon, and Keeper of the Moons allow for blue skin complexions.
Yep. I started out as a keeper of the moon as well.
It
I was
turns
a
out
kitty boy.
blue moons very rare. In my entire career of playing FF14, which starts in late 2014, I have met less than 30 blue moons.
Oh, jeez.
So, you know, through that, you know, I've discovered that I was a rarity within a commonality,
Yeah.
which if I, excuse me, one moment.
You got
Ah, choking
I
on my own saliva. Ah,
good fun, good fun. I definitely started out as a blue moon kitty, but I ended up shifting to Viera because I wanted to be taller. And then I ended up shifting to Rogadin because I wanted to be taller. And not just through the ears.
right.
And now I'm taller than Raubon. I like it.
You achieve the goal.
I achieved the
But
height goal.
incidentally, though, I just want, without doing the best I can to avoid spoiling things, around the point where you go to a territory, I'm just going to say within Stormblood, you should be able to guess which one this is very easily. Where Mikote don't really happen, I felt like I was a lie because I'm thinking, I'm over here representing my people, and I am such an outlier of what my people look, act, and sound like. I feel like I'm living a lie.
Yeah,
It's just like it's like no,
I
no,
think I
indigenous
remember
peoples
that
do
scene.
not look upon me and think this is what my people are. No.
Yeah, like for me, that was a scene of everybody looking to a Giga Stacy Rogadin wielding a sword bigger than like half of the adventuring party with her.
Right. But yeah, so, you know, if you find yourself going like, okay, there's plenty of succubi. Okay, sure. Not going to dispute that point. But there's something that you can do to make yourself a rarity within the commonality. It's just a matter of figuring out what that is.
And it seems for me, that's doing live react content. At least it seems to be working in some respects.
Possibly. If you're wanting to, I'm over here thinking of design considerations as opposed to activity considerations, but, you know, it may well be an activity consideration for you, you know, whatever.
Part of
It
it's
all depends on how you
activity,
feel.
part of it I guess would be design. Like it's hard to really get people to click on a design that looks like everybody else, you do want to still kind of stand out. Personally, I find that if you do like a less detailed sort of thing, like you want to avoid going the over designed direction where the viewer's eye
Hmm.
is drawn everywhere around the character.
Right.
I personally think I hit that nicely with my design, but I mean, you don't really know until other people actually tell you. And at this point, I'm kind of committed to the vest and the gloves. So, like, I don't
Hmm.
care. I like it.
Hmm. Hmm. I do like the gloves, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I mean, mutual respect for the gloves. I love the long sleeve gloves. All the way up the arm.
The bridal gauntlets are probably my favorite. Like, there's so many things about my design that I like. It's hard to actually pick a favorite, but I think it might be the bridal gauntlets. Uh, Pulling the curtain a little bit. When I was speaking with my artist about, oh, this is a business, and you could see her watermark, Miss Sugar Pop. Definitely check her out. Uh, she is worth her price. Um, when we were just kind of, co-creating the design, because like I had some ideas and she filled out some of them on some other notes, like, the tail fin being based off of a beta fish as opposed to, other things. Like that wasn't my idea. And, the open front dress, also not my idea. But, I'm very, very fond of open front dresses. And, the tail fin is fantastic. And I just took one look at those, it's like, oh, this is perfect. My big idea was finding an actual photograph of coral, and she took that photograph and just overlaid it upon the bridal gauntlets. What you're looking at there is the unmodified photo of coral.
Really?
Really?
That is pretty cool to know about the design. Like, I was also wondering what actually inspired the tail. It's pretty cool to know that it was a beta fish that did that because I used to have some beta fish.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other part of your design that really stands out to you?
Well, there's one that's very closely related to the bridal gauntlets, but I'm going to be keeping a little quiet about that one. And if you see it, you see it.
Okay, fair enough.
I
I'm
will
gonna go
say that
looking for it.
the React image you will not find it on because it is not on screen.
I'm looking. I'm looking.
Yeah, so having some guessing games going into my design was actually an active consideration of mine because I was like I want folks to like if folks just want to look and that's all they want to do, sure, fine, that's fine.
Pleasing to the
Not going
eye, but then the
not going
people
to
that
judge
do want
anyone.
to dive deeper in, there are stuff that you can look further into and like try and figure out lore, find lore relating to it, or try and guess at the lore. Like I've got that kiss mark. I hardly ever talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like lore or just personal interests or inspirations and those kind of things.
Hmm.
So I deliberately designed a few, and I'm dropping clues here and there, but not being particularly telling about any of them.
The mole is a more personal touch. I would not know.
I think they're referring to mine.
Yeah.
Since I have a beauty mark. I
Yes,
mean, the beauty mark works, doesn't it?
it does. It does its job.
Well, there we are. That was my idea, I will say.
And it was a good one to have.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm tired. even though I got a decent amount of sleep.
Oh boy, that was me the other day. I slept absolutely dreadfully the other day. I was just awake by virtue of the fact that it takes me too long to get back to sleep, and then I'm awake again in another 15 minutes. There's no point.
Oh my god, yeah, I can relate. And then even though there's sometimes no point, I still can't kick myself out of bed because, my cat's still in there and I don't want to move. I like snuggle in with him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's sometimes so hard to go to work because of my cats.
But worth it.
Yeah, yeah, I need that bread.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually am. I'm actually allergic to cats, but that doesn't stop me in the slightest.
That is unfortunate, and it also doesn't stop you from enjoying cat videos.
Oh, I don't need cat videos. I have a cat video.
Fair enough. I I gotta be honest. The one thing that I miss being a live cam streamer is having my cat just appear on stream. Because I used to have a redeem that was called Gotham Time, and all I would do was
Mmm.
hold up a brush, and then up came my kitty hopping on my desk, wanting to get his brushies because he's my little princess.
Mood, 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 mood.
Yeah, that's Gotham for you. He's got such lovely fur.
Not gonna have. I'll send one of mine over to you. I'd rather she not be on the internet broadly. I don't mind sharing one with you.
Fair enough.
But
I might pull up. I don't remember where my last picture I sent of cats are. I don't feel like digging that up.
understandable. Anyhow, so that's probably the last off the cuff tangent that I have not prepared. There was definitely a few things that we premeditated should be coming up as subjects, though. Probably a good idea to head to those now.
Sure, I'm totally down. Because I'm basically going to be ending stream after the end of our conversation, pretty much.
Right.
So,
All right.
what would you want to step into for the next topic?
Well, the one of the larger ones, such as it is, as I have mentioned, I am a say so VTuber. Contrary to the manner in which I present, it's very easy to come to the assumption, looking at me as like, oh, this individual is exceptionally chested. They must be a lewd streamer. And no, no, I am not. I will say, initially, I was kind of expecting things to go that way, but it turns out most of the people in my community are just my friends, and that'd be weird for me because I don't have that kind of relationship with my friends. Uh,
I get that. I get that.
s- so,
And a lot of people will just automatically assume you are, or you might be lewd leaning, especially with appearing on my stream, since I get a little
mhm,
less say so than some people like.
right. Obviously, I don't judge in that realm, and I'd frankly be a hypocrite if we were talking personal history, but that's personal history. But that
Eh,
being said, the very fact that there is, this association of, top heavy lady equals sexual, just as, an inherent thing, I find that intensely troubling.
Yep, like there's a handful of people, to say the least, that will only fixate on the bust size of a creator, of a person in general, and like that's all they really think about regarding that person. Like,
Oh, well, I
it's
have some
okay to like such things, but remember that there's more of a person beyond the titties.
so I have some personal history to bring up here. So,
Ooh, dish.
once upon a time, I was in a given community that I'm not really going to speak about too much. But within that community, one particular illustrator kind of became, the unofficial illustrator of that community because, they would do a lot of very off the cuff fan art of, what the community was around, whatever the activity was, or like if the tabletop was going on, they would do some ad hoc designs of the characters and etc. And, a lot of folks came to very appreciate, their ability and, the kind of flair and humor that they would bring to things, and they did very well in that. When it came to doing designs for my characters on, those offhand moments, because, I present the way I am, it turned out this caused tension, and they would always far underrepresent in that sense. And I didn't appreciate that. So when I actually had a conversation with them about it, they actually seemed to be rather judgmental about the matter. And they brought up an example that I thought was very interesting. They brought up some anime, I couldn't tell you which one, don't know, where at the very end of it, the leading lady is standing triumphant over, whatever it was she just overcame, and the leading lady is Chesty, and his position was because she was Chesty, he felt that it took away from the moment from a narrative level and on a personal achievement level because, she was chesty and the camera was looking at her in that manner. And so it seems to me that his idea was to reject the objectification that was going on there, but also missed the forest for the trees and just kind of defaulted to the only reason that she is this chesty is to be gawked at and that kind of thing. And, associated that with negativity. And that felt like a great big missing of the mark to me because that amounts to unwitting body shaming. And at the time, we didn't really have that termage to really lean on in common parlance. It was like I wouldn't even be aware of that term for, at least another 5 years.
I mean, yeah, I didn't know about that term either until, or at least I didn't directly think about it until more recently, I'd say.
Right. And, it's like within that same community, like, a friend of theirs was a lady who self identified as being, fat. I'm not going to try to use like, more polite terms because there's nothing wrong with being fat in and of itself. And it's also how
True.
she identified. And she was also very always down on sizable chests. And that felt very hypocritical to me. Now, I couldn't speak on what these individuals think of in more recent years. They, as you might have guessed, were not folks that I particularly cared to hang around with. But at the time, I remember feeling that these were very similarly yet distinct postures of hypocrisy. One being, trying to stand up for one thing and missing the mark, and the other being an embrace of one's own body shape while demeaning other body shapes. And I find that that has, a continued prevalence, and we're only just now kind of starting to make some headway on that in a sort of kind of not really manner. So that kind of line of thinking is partially why I ended up ultimately deciding to uh be a say-so streamer and yet still present as I do because I feel that there is a woeful underrepresentation of, ladies who have, exceptional endowments, but are, treated with respect, on their own terms. Because if you look at, most common media, a chesty lady is going to be present for two things: sex appeal and or comedy, with her body being the joke or the way people react to her body being the joke. I can think offhand
It
of an
is
episode of
fairly
Two and
common, but then there's also the trope of the large chested woman also can be like a motherly figure, like a la, what's it, Lady Dimitrescu from
oh,
Resident Evil.
right. Uh, that's not exactly what I'm speaking of, but I know what you're saying. We can get around to that.
Yeah, it's more of a tangential point.
Sure. Um, of course, the way that people ran away with it, it did become an attraction thing. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, no, people, holy shit, they simped after her so hard.
Unwitting gold struck by Capcom on this day.
Right?
But I can recall on, like once upon a time when everyone was watching Two and a Half Men before a lot of people realized, wait a minute, this show is actually kind of horrible. Um, there's an episode where,
Was it?
if you look back on it now, there's problems.
Fair
There's
enough.
an episode where like the more responsible, of the main characters is sitting in a waiting room alongside like a chesty lady and like, oh, Mr. Responsible over here is flustered because he is attracted, but he doesn't do that thing, but he does, but he doesn't. Blah, blah, blah. And
He does the thing,
it's,
but he feels bad about it, so he's a good person.
or, something. And realistically speaking, in that moment, was that lady objectified for, the sake of the joke? Yes. Because, this is not a regular character. She wasn't doing anything, in particular other than just existing, that's like her presence for being chesty was in and of itself the vehicle and punchline of the joke by her sheer existence. And I find a lot of people don't really think about that very much. It's like, okay, it's one thing to have a cheesecake character. I like cheesecake characters, as it turns out, but I find that I like them for very different reasons than most people do because I'm interested in seeing, okay, here's this lady who's very cheesecakey. What are they going to do with her narratively and character-wise with her? Because they have set a precedent for, uh a visual cue, a visual shorthand. This character is attractive. This character is conventionally attractive. So then from a writing perspective, my head goes, all right, are they going to embrace this, subvert this? Where are they going to lead based upon this, you know, shorthand precedent? And sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised. Other times it really is just that shallow. And I kind of wish more people would kind of look for, characters that have this as a written shorthand and try to look into more about them rather than they hot.
Oh my god. Blood goes to somewhere that isn't their brain, and that's why they can't think of anything else.
Hmm, hmm. Like another personal history is, there's obviously it is clear to me that there is a very aggressive disposition in, body judgment about these kinds of things. Way back once upon a time, well over a decade ago, I was a user of IMVU, back before the Fur Affinity acquisition thereof.
Oh my god, I remember that. I remember IMVU.
And,
Hey, Len.
I went on there and I presented, in a manner which is on, brand for myself. And I would use, like the random chat roulette thing where it would just be like, okay, connect to a person and start chatting. And I found that after I started doing that, usually the response I would get would be one of the four stock phrases that a top heavy lady receives, or active hostility. And that manifesting sometimes in the emotive use of violence, because there were some people who would just start using like the punch person emote on me just for my appearance. So they were literally attacking me for how I presented. And like the stock statements are, your back must hate you, or something like that. Something related to back pain, something, those are too big, something, you're only doing that to get the attention of men, and and so on. The fourth one actually kind of eludes me because like I don't really care to think about it because they're all horrible.
Yeah, and
But
honestly, they're not really worth putting any thought into. There's no actual criticism, or broader point. It's literally just shaming people for their body.
right, and the big point here is the fact that a lot of these are steeped in a form of ignorance, but the form of ignorance, interestingly, is different between them. Like the back pain one stems from the ignorance of how does a human body react when it grows up adapted to sizable breasts. And in that sense, if you actually speak with most top heavy ladies out there, a lot of them will say that they're fine. Most of the ones that don't either have a personal thing that doesn't work out for them, or they don't exercise and take care of their body. Turns out not exercising and taking care of your body can be a source of back pain. And,
What? That can't be
and
where my back pain comes from.
sure, obviously there's all kinds of sources,
Yeah.
but, one's mams are not going to be the sole source of it basically ever. If we're being entirely honest, it's like, okay, look into getting a properly fitting support because most are not properly fitting. Look into doing personal exercises because even folks who do not have, mammaries are going to be at risk for back pain if they don't take care of themselves. They don't, exercise or, practice safe lifting techniques and all that other kind of good stuff.
Yep.
So, like, that's kind of just like a general biological ignorance right there. Um, the statement about, you're doing that to get, you're looking that way to get attention, you know, on its face, that's just kind of a ridiculous statement in and of itself, that's assumptive, and, the assumption is a pejorative in and of itself. But it's also assuming, heteronormativity, I am not interested in gents, but, that's not going to stop me from presenting as I do. So clearly, that breaks down very quickly.
Yeah,
So,
it's like saying you only put on makeup to appease men or to attract men. No,
mm-hmm,
clearly don't know why people put on makeup.
mm-hmm. And so, that's a different form of ignorance in, a more socially engineered ignorance. And then, kind of dipping back to, the back pain one, as it turns out, when a body is used to existing in a current state, the body tends to be pretty good about adapting to that, especially when, it goes through the formative years expecting such a thing.
Yeah, like the human
So
body is surprisingly adaptable.
if you, one of my actual influences in, how to, in like how to present in the manner in which I want to, well, is an old adult entertainment actress who I'm not going to use the stage name. I'm going to use her actual name, Ms. Annie Hawkins Turner. And if you ever look at her, you will notice that her arms are very thick because she has to wrangle everything that she does on a daily basis. Turns out when you have to manipulate, that amount of body mass on the regular with your arms are going to become strong because they have to deal with this as a regular thing. They will do that to compensate. That's something that, the body, you know, accommodates. Oh,
Yeah,
this is a situation. I am going to adapt to this.
that's something that people don't realize either, that even though people have like bigger bodies, plus size bodies, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
need the muscle mass to actually move that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
like bigger bodies are not just body fat. They also tend to have more muscle than
Yep.
an average body size person that doesn't even work out.
Go ahead and call any given sumo wrestler unfit, and I'll be over here with popcorn selling tickets.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go arm wrestle any bigger person. See how that works out.
So, with that all being in mind, I want to pose as a representation of, exceptionally sized, but also family friendly, because I want to break that stigma of large chests being strictly associated with sex and sexuality. It's like, can you include that in your interest or your personal activities? Absolutely. Should that be the default? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
And
I have
another,
problem with assuming defaults of people. That's why I kind of push back against gender norms, that kind of thing.
mhm. Like another personal story that I have is, and on the one hand, I've told this story before. On the other hand, it kind of gets into PL territory. So I'm just going to say that a now infamous publisher, uh, I was working on well, not exactly working. I volunteered for their moderation duties for their community, and my mother, my actual, meat space mother, is, is chesty. And at the time, this was over a decade ago, maybe not over, but around a decade ago, she was volunteering at a local elementary school. And all of the faculty and, the kids absolutely adored her because, she was very kind, she was very helpful, she helped people all over the place. Like they actually gave her an award. Like she got like a little, badge out of it, of the whole thing for being a volunteer at an elementary school, which doesn't tend to
Nice.
happen. And so this individual looks at my, profile image avatar, which was, large but completely covered, non-provocative posture, very conservative dress, and started giving me grief about that, saying you need to change that. There are children here. So I relayed that story about my mother to him to kind of, all right, I am trying to be diplomatic with you, quote unquote, boss, about why this doesn't really hold water, and pointed out that if this statement about you can't be chesty and be around children just as a default, then that's an entire school that would suffer for the lack of my mother's involvement. And to hold this position is to hold a position of ignorance. And he completely blew right past me, ignored me, and told me to change it anyway. No lessons learned. I quit immediately.
Yeah, some people just can't even accept when you bring up actual reasons why they're wrong. They just want to have it their way and they don't want to be questioned.
Hmm. I will say that this individual later got hit with scandal. So
Nice.
guess the lousy company. Uh
Um, Amazon.
Oh, I wish. I wish I could put Amazon on blast, but no.
Yeah,
No, no,
I
no, no,
honestly
no.
don't know.
I did say publisher. I'll tell you about it once we're off of here, but
Okay,
for PL reasons, I don't think I should commit it to public record, you know?
fair enough, fair enough. Hey, Shala.
Hey there, Shala. I did see your interview. So yeah, that's kind of, one of my big passions about it. It's like I've always been passionate about, wanting to change the social dogma regarding, things that are, you know, kind of dumb regarding, bodily autonomy and whatnot. And, I have found that there is, an indescribable degree of ignorance that goes into it. You can find the stories about how, a staffer had to teach a United States senator about how menstruation works to have, a very easy to point to example of how much ignorance there is about, the way an individual's body works, particularly if they're a lady. And, it all does come down, I feel, to ignorance and the abuse of that ignorance in one manner or another. So I just kind of want to, preach some education and try to make some headway against that.
Yeah, yeah, I can get that. Who is this? This is Forneia, a streamer. We met at the Prideathon stream. We're
Hello,
getting all
hello.
set up. Why is my chat being weird? Not showing the right size. Oh, wait, no, I know why. But yeah, is there can we really add more to this?
I feel like that's about all I had to say on the subject. I told my three big stories about the matter that kind of illustrated from different perspectives. Because it's definitely not a new thing. And, the first time I ran into it, it was very disheartening. I'm actually very, very happy that, since becoming a VTuber and showing folks, my presentation, I've had pretty much universal response of everyone saying like, "Oh, you're absolutely lovely. You're gorgeous. You look so good." And I was actually very nervous about that at first because I figure I was going to once again be the subject of ignorance and hateful remarks based on that ignorance, but a lot of people have just been, looking past that and, just saying you look good and just kind of leaving it at that as opposed to, over fixating on something and being judgmental about it. And that's something I very, very appreciate. So I would like to have other, folks be able to present as, as I am choosing to do so and, not be lambasted uh
And not being expected to
expressing
be like
themselves.
relating to that to the sexual side of things, even though they're actually not. People
Right.
just
It's like
assume it because big
it,
boob.
like an individual, if someone, finds identity in having a large chest, that doesn't inherently make them sexual. And, I want folks to be able to be comfortable in presenting large, but also, not be under attack for it.
Yeah, like most people are just trying to live their lives. Surprisingly, it's kind of the problem with putting people into boxes and like
Hmm.
trying to assume roles or put roles onto people just because of their body kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's a surprisingly broader topic than just like plus size chests or gender roles. It applies more broadly than I expected when actually looking into it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
Subverting
like,
expectations done right? True.
thank you. It's like if we want to talk about, the ignorance that, one is left with, you know, I'm openly trans. When I was very young and, I was being raised the other way, uh, I can definitely say this. Uh, what education I did get about how to behave, as young man and all that other kind of thing, borderline didn't happen. You know what let me ask you this one, Briley. What
Shoot.
is a date?
A date?
A
Type
date.
a type of fruit.
Okay, not that type. You know what I mean.
It's a mark on a calendar. I'm sorry, you're asking an aromantic person. I know what you mean. Like
I just
an
want your
intimate event between one or between two or potentially more people where the express intent is to develop a romantic relationship.
I would say you can take the develop a romantic relationship off of there, but uh
Well, I
to
mean, when
potentially
people are doing
cultivate
that
one.
for like they call that friend dates when they're developing a platonic relationship.
Oh, are they actually
Then
doing that
that
these days? All right, well that's on me, I guess.
yeah,
My point my point is,
it's kind of implied through society that all dates are leading towards a romantic relationship, even though that's not exactly true.
so when I was young, all I had to understand what is a date was stuff that I learned on daytime television.
Yeah, like TV.
So my interpretation of what is a date when I was in high school and, in that realm of, oh, I should be doing this, I guess, was a date is something that you go on with someone that you love and that love happens at first sight.
Oh yes, love at first sight. That one is
You can,
common.
it, so there are a lot of problems with that, love at first sight, first of all, farce. Thank you, Steven Universe, for being a show brave enough to call it as such.
True.
Um, but also, I was never actually told what a date is by any of the adults in my life. So I grew up thinking that I had to want to be with someone already before I could go on a date. I never understood that a date was supposed to be basically a compatibility test.
Yeah, honest, kind of. Huh. I don't know.
Like,
I haven't really done dating in forever. I just kind of do hookups these days.
sure. And, I'm not saying there's anything, wrong with that or any other whatnot, but
Yeah, I'm just
I
I'm
didn't
just
have
being
anything
honest.
go.
Dating
No,
is kind of a world I'm so outside of, kind of.
I think from this story you can tell that I'm kind of outside of it as well, but for probably a different reason.
Yeah, probably.
So, it wasn't even until like my later 20s where I even had that kind of epiphany of, oh, wait, this is why this didn't even work right. And it occurred to me that a lot of the ladies that I knew were kind of getting that information of you go on a date to figure out if you like this person or whatever. And basically none of the gents that I knew were in on that. So it occurred to me that this is actually a gendered education subject in that, oh, this is going to be an important part of your life, young lady, because marriage and whatever. Whereas, young men were not being given this education. And in my case, it led me astray because it almost ruined a friendship of mine by virtue of, thinking something was a date, but it wasn't, and that made, the lady that, I fancied uncomfortable because from her perspective, from the entire time, we had a platonic relationship. But, those kinds of lines were not drawn in my head because I had no reason to think in those terms. I had no foundation to build upon. So, when it comes to, matters of, uh, you know, gender and presentation and all that, whatnot, I'm just going to say that broadly speaking, our education systems are incredibly lacking in providing, comprehension and, you know, how to be socially graceful regarding such things. It's like, okay, what is a date? Okay, the person looks like this. How do you treat them? What do you think about how to treat them? What do you think about how their life and living conditions are given by, you know, the way that they present, the way they carry themselves, or the way they're physically composed, all that other kind of thing. I find that those kind of things don't actually come up a lot, and I wish those things would. So I just kind of want to put that thought in folks' minds, you know?
I mean, there might be a market for content of that. People actually offering that kind of insight, because I know there's a bunch of people that offer some form of that kind of insight, but it doesn't actually lead to helpful areas. It just leads to essentially what seems to be a perpetuation of the system rather than trying to build it in a better direction.
Well, I suppose the possibility for that exists, but I will be entirely honest here. While I may be incredibly lacking in the financial territory, I kind of find myself galled at the idea of appealing to it as a market. I'm
I mean,
a
you got to appeal to some kind of market as a content creator.
That's kind of my thing.
Creator.
I'm a little too I'm a little too socialist to think of things in markets, I suppose.
Well, I mean, work with the system we're in, right? Because I want to build towards a socialist utopia too. We just can't do that in our lifetime. We got to focus on ways that we can turn this current system into a slightly better one that can hopefully lead towards socialism eventually.
I
Kind of
have every
why I argue
confidence
for
I have
like
every
a
confidence we will get there. It's just a matter of how long and how many struggles are going to be there along the way. Absolutely.
oh, true.
I'm just kind of over here in the headspace of grr. I don't like these rules.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm totally grr. I don't like that. I have to sell my labor, but work with the systems we got.
Anyhow. So yeah, that's my big soapbox subject, I suppose.
Those are always fun to get into, aren't they?
Hmm. Oh, by the way, just as a thing regarding the thing you were watching earlier prior to my showing up, I'm just going to throw a shout out to the legacy of maybe not the person. I don't know. I couldn't speak about the person themselves, but the legacy of Sailor Bubba.
What?
You never knew about Sailor Bubba?
No. Is this in
Uh,
referring, or is this referring
really?
to the drag video that I was playing?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, big hairy dude who would cosplay as Sailor Moon and had a big Sailor Moon scepter that he would brandish like a club and stand in
Based.
imposing postures for.
We need more of that. Like Dad Bod Rapunzel, who is just
Like
like,
there was,
his
it was
entire design is literally a bearded dude with the dad bod wearing a Sailor Moon outfit.
right. It's like as soon as you started mentioning that, I was like, oh yeah, Sailor Bubba. I remember. I remember Sailor Bubba. Sailor Bubba was fun.
Yeah, and there are people that are like, that is inherently sexual. It's like,
And I was like, nah.
nah, bro, nah. People just people just be so goddamn dumb.
It really all does come down to ignorance, ultimately.
Yeah. And that ignorance where they don't actually know of stuff, they don't learn, they don't look into things, just kind of leads them to jump to their own conclusions, causing problems.
So yeah, ultimately, I would say fight the ignorance educate and critical think.
Yeah. The hard part is how do you get people to want to get that education? How do you get people to start to think critically? It's a very hard question to answer. For me, I try to do it a little subtly, so to speak, with my content. Get people to start
I'm
thinking about things a little more passively, at least, with just listening to my videos.
Now, this might be a bit hypocritical on my part, seeing as how I don't engage in, uh, social discussion, we'll call it, on my own streams and whatever, because, as I've stated, I want my space to be, kind of supportive of that, but not necessary, but not, what's the word? Uh, but not dwelling upon such things because
I like focusing on it.
I want my territory to be, kind of like a resting space, a resting safe space for those, doing the good work, fighting the good fight.
Yeah, I get that.
So, like, it might be a bit rich for me to say this, but I'm reminded of a certain author whose name I cannot remember in the moment, who delivered the wonderful, wonderful line of, I know writers who use subtext. They're all cowards.
Nice. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people don't want to actively engage or talk with political subjects. A lot of people, they just want to make goofy videos online. They just want to spread positivity. They just want to spread fun. And I
Right.
feel that a lot of people kind of lean into that just a little too much. It's not
Sure.
inherently wrong to do that, but I think that too many people turn away talking about this kind of stuff with their content. It's kind of what drives me to make the content I make.
Like I definitely do respect what you're doing in being more overt about the matter. For me, I'm kind of trying to, I suppose, in a roundabout way, kind of lead by example of, all right, I'm going to present you with an example of a say-so individual who does not, uh, whose existence does not support the stereotypes or the ignorant line. So I want folks to kind of go, hey, wait a minute, I say this, but then this lady isn't like that at all. Hmm. It's like it'll happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen with everyone, but influences do occur.
Oh yeah, there's definitely there is room for people that are like, not really overtly political, but they kind of have their leanings, their biases that I would personally agree with, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't require like every single person being lockstep, let's talk politically. It The big thing that really is what sells it for me, I guess, is the phrasing, but it's the people that are, we don't really want to talk about politics, but we're going to be friendly with the people that do talk politics with the politics we agree. And then
I'll
that
just
kind of helps spread those that thinking in order to get, more people interested in, I don't know, let's say socialism, let's say treating each other like people.
Yeah, the education hard sell definitely has its place, and I do support it. For me, I just kind of harken back to a moment that I had when I was younger in my teens. Surprise, surprise, I was ignorant and dumb. Still dumb, less ignorant. Uh,
Same. Anyways, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk with you again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here again.
Thank you for coming on, and I have to get running. Oh, 5 hour stream, go me.
Congratulations. I usually do 6.
Mine vary. I wasn't actually expecting. I wasn't sure how long I was going to be going today.
Well, have a good run, and thank you for having me.
And thank you again for coming on. I will talk with you again.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye bye. Seriously, lovely chat with Forneia. You definitely should check her out. Shouldn't I pull up her accounts? Yes. But, well, she doesn't really use Twitter very much, so I'm just going to link you guys her Twitch. That'll also be in the video. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.